When I became an actor, I never fantasized about playing James Bond. As a kid, yeah. But that was being James Bond. That was something else. That was that was fantasy.
After a 2-year worldwide search and months of speculation, on the 14th of October 2005, the James Bond film producers, Eon Productions, finally announced to the world's media the 6th actor to take over the role of Secret Agent 007. For producers Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, this is the culmination of events that started over 6 years ago, when they finally secured the rights to the first and most influential of Ian Fleming's spy novels, Casino Royale. The 1962 film Dr. No is credited as the first James Bond movie. However, the character made his screen debut almost a decade earlier.
It was made into a television play in America. And Barry Nelson played the leading character, who was Jimmy Bond. Because of that, the rights were tied up. So when Cubby and Harry made the deal with Fleming to the Bond series, they couldn't acquire those rights. And the people that had those rights made the film Casino Royale in 1967, which was a spoof of the whole kind of spy genre, sort of a precursor to Austin Powers, in fact. So the book was never really done properly.
We got into a lawsuit with Sony Pictures in 1997, and as part of the resolution of that lawsuit, we got a hold of the rights, and so when we were sitting around saying, what do we want to do for the next film, it seemed like this was the great opportunity. The opportunity had been missed all the way along, and we could finally make Casino Royale the way it should be.
The producers decide from the outset that they want to remain as faithful as possible to Fleming's original novel. This is Bond at the beginning of his career, which automatically rules out Pierce Brosnan to play the part of 007.
Having decided to do the book, it's supposed to be Bond when he just gets his 00 license, and Pierce is too old for that.
Director Martin Campbell, who was responsible for launching Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye, will return to direct the film.
Clearly, someone else had to do it because I need somebody younger.
From the moment we decided we were going to make Casino Royale, obviously the biggest challenge was trying to find an actor who could play James Bond at the beginning of his career as a 00.
And one of the very first names that came up in discussion was Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig's first break came when he appeared as George Peacock in the award-winning BBC drama Our Friends in the North. By 2002, he'd reached an international audience with films like Tomb Raider and Road to Perdition.
Barbara Broccoli, the producer, said, "What do you think of him?" I said, "I think he's fantastic." For Bond? And she went, "Well, yes, what else?"
Craig's unique looks and acting style meant that he was not going to be pigeonholed. His career to date includes work as wide-ranging as the critically acclaimed Sylvia, the cult British gangster movie Layer Cake, and Steven Spielberg's Munich.
I was rather like Debbie. I wasn't sure because, I had to get out of my mindset that it was Pierce or Roger Moore or whatever. We had a different tone to the story.
It was completely from left field. I just didn't see myself doing it. I didn't see myself taking on something like this because I had other ideas, other things I wanted to do as an actor. And probably because of the fear of the unknown as much as anything, because unless you get involved with something like this, you don't know what it takes to make a movie like this. I kind of figured they were covering their bases. They needed to talk to as many people as possible and see what reaction they were going to get. And I just considered myself to be part of that process. And very nice, thank you very much, but, haha, let's move on. And they weren't. They were serious.
The character that Ian Fleming created is a very complex character and has been played obviously by many actors, and each one of those actors has sort of focused on different elements. And for this particular one, we thought Daniel was the right guy.
By September 2005, the producers finally had a script that they felt truly represented the book.
You know, it's a harder script. It's a much more realistic script. It goes back to From Russia with Love.
I loved the idea of us becoming James Bond during this and seeing that journey, but also emotionally what it took to become James Bond, because the Bond we know is someone who's really emotionally shut off, and certainly Fleming talks about that in his book.
The script was very exciting to read. I saw potential that I hadn't thought of before, and I saw other things that could be put into the film which I thought other people hadn't seen before. So all of those things just tied in. It became, from that point onwards, there was no turning back.
Daniel was now odds-on favorite to take the part, but the producers had still to convince the studio. They needed to see that he was up to the role. In September 2005, Daniel, along with 4 other actors, was invited to Pinewood Studios to film a screen test.
Well, I must say the tests that we're doing are fairly elaborate tests, and we're doing sort of a couple of major scenes, to be honest.
They need to see what they're getting themselves in for. You've got to go and see if you can do it. That was a day that really was tricky, because that was a full day's filming, and I think at the end of that, that was a realization that suddenly, oh God, what am I doing? Barbara wanted to tell me herself, and I'd already sort of gone out shopping and was somewhere else, had moved on, was sort of waiting, and then the phone call, and she sort of went, over to you, kiddo, and that was it.
Even with several A-list movies under his belt, Daniel Craig had managed to keep a reasonably low profile with the press. Until now. The new 007 is about to throw himself at the mercy of the world's Bond-hungry media.
I sort of woke up in the morning, got driven down to HMS Belfast, where the Royal Marines were waiting. And, sorry, I haven't actually thought about it. It's just or spoken to anybody about it.
We've got 3 refrigerators down there, and we're going to give him his opportunity to arrive on the scene as James Bond with a little bit of panache.
Oh, yes,
That is Daniel. Yeah. Right, do you want to get this guy? Just get in the back.
Yes, mate.
How are you feeling?
Oh, well, ask me in an hour's time. I'm pinching myself, basically.
Yeah,
I'm going to go on. Cheers, mate.
Okay, Daniel.
There'll be all, a ravenous media wanting to pass judgment on them. As always with Bond, that's what happens. You're guilty until proven innocent.
All right, here we go.
I'm just glad I didn't fall off. I mean, that's really the only thing that really matters. And if I had fallen off, I would have swum to the other shore and said, thanks, good night. I had a go, but it didn't work.
You did have a life vest on.
Oh, yeah, well, that kind of apparently was a sign that I couldn't swim or something.
First thing is, you've got to put it on. If you come off, you'll knock yourself out.
Yeah, no.
You put it on like a jacket, in front of yourself.
Yeah. I should have worn armbands. Orange armbands, it would have been a much better look.
What do you look most forward to, and what intimidates you the most?
I'm looking most forward to actually starting, getting on with it.
And how are you going to make your Bond different?
Dan, your time actually has run out, but can I ask you one final, as you've been now exposed here, do you, in a sense,
have any worry about
more comfortable? No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The producers have decided to shoot a large proportion of the film in the Czech Republic capital of Prague.
Well, I think going to Prague, where we hadn't made a film before, it was new for all of us, and that, I think, energized us too. There was no familiar. There was just, everything was kind of for the first time.
With all the pomp and ceremony over, it's time at last to get on with it. And Daniel is handed over to the stunt team in Prague. With the emphasis on a tougher, harder Bond, director Martin Campbell is keen to see his star in as much of the action as possible.
We've had Daniel for a couple of days now. He's sort of basically straight in at the deep end. He's got 4 big scenes involving action coming straight up. Well, he's obviously done bits before on films, Tomb Raider, Layer Cake, he's done his own sort of bits, but we always, you know, when we get people, we have to sort of go back to basics.
And he looks like he's got the hang of that.
Getting there, yeah. No, he's good, yeah.
Has he been a good pupil so far?
When he listens, yeah. No, he's good. He's quite attentive, actually. He's got a good attention to detail, so he wants it to look right, and he wants to do it right, so.
This is the work you got to do. I mean, I mean, you got to work hard. That's it. Work hard to get it right, or drill it to get it right. So, I mean, we're going to kick off this Friday, and just looking forward to it. I just really want to get it done. The worst thing is, anybody, from crew member to actor to anybody, the worst day is the first day shooting. They're putting film in the camera, it's for real. The next thing they're going to film is going to be in the cinemas, and it's nerve-wracking, but we started off by doing a sequence where I basically was kicking the shit out of people for a week, and actually I think that was the best way to start. It kind of broke the ice somewhat.
Stand by. And action!
Right, here we go. Warner, please.
Martin, the phrase "hit the ground running" springs to mind. Is that obviously the way you like to work?
Well, I mean, look around us. You know, we've got this big scene, which is the end of a big action scene right at the beginning of the movie, and I like everybody to get up and really go for it, you know? Baptism by fire, really.
We'll see what happens when we do the love scenes. If you're shouting as much as that, I'm not sure it's going to work, but...
Even worse during the love scenes, let me tell you, my God.
The Bond crew were already witnessing a Bond they hadn't seen before, a tougher Bond.
The book is very real. You know, the book is based in, you know, it's a much grittier kind of realistic portrait of Bond and the world. There's no fantastic sort of hollow volcanoes.
We thought there's no point in doing the book unless you do it as closely as possible. Generally, Bond films, his character remains the same from the beginning to the end. And this was an opportunity to show how he develops and changes.
Casino Royale was the first book that Ian Fleming wrote, the first James Bond book that he wrote. And he wrote it in 1953. He was a confirmed bachelor. And he finally decided that he was going to marry his girlfriend. So the running up to getting married, he went off to Jamaica and he sat down to write the definitive spy novel. And it's sort of interesting when you know that, reading the book, because you see that he was kind of mourning the life he was about to give up.
What about a drink at my place?
Is it close? This beautiful man invite her to drink something and say, perhaps they're gonna have fun for one night, maybe more. She think. She hope.
But it's Treasury official Vesper Lynn, whose relationship with Bond sets her apart from Fleming's other female creations.
I'm the money.
Every penny of it.
Vespa is a kind of enigma. She is quite complex and it's difficult to see through her. I mean, she's like the Sphinx. You can't understand who she is. I mean, you know, she's full of layers. She's quite sharp, sassy.
Which means you were at that school by the grace of someone else's charity, hence the chip on your shoulder. And since your first thought about me ran to orphan, that's what I'd say you are. You are.
She is the woman that, you know, places the biggest mark upon Bond, the character, for his whole life.
I'm sure he looked at her file and looked at her photograph and thought, oh, this looks rather interesting. And when she comes along and she happens to be bright, intelligent, as well as beautiful, then
Apparently we're very much in love.
he becomes more intrigued by her and falls in love. I mean, that's really the bottom line, is he falls in love with her.
In the old days, if an agent did something that embarrassing, he'd have the good sense to defect. Christ, I miss the Cold War.
Judi Dench's M is the only one of the regular MI6 characters to return in Casino Royale, a role which began 11 years ago in GoldenEye.
If you think about it on a timeline, it makes no sense because, you know, we have a new Bond, but we have Judi back. The truth is that there's no way you could not cast her in the part again, no matter how screwed up the timeline is. You know, she's just M and there is nobody else.
I think the fact that M is Judi and therefore female is an incredibly important part of what Bond now is. Because he is a bit of a misogynist, and she is the perfect balance. Because basically she looks after him, she keeps him alive.
Bond, this may be too much for a blunt instrument to understand, but arrogance and self-awareness seldom go hand in hand.
So you want me to be half monk, half hitman?
Any thug can kill. Fortunately, I don't have to do any of those things like put this piece of machinery together and fit in a few wires and things, which I did. I can't remember what Bond, but I remember watching it and my husband saying, "You're not going to try and save the world, are you, Jews?" He said, "Because we've had it." Thank goodness I don't have to do that again, because I can't work an ironing board.
He's in the Bahamas.
You woke me to share his holiday plans.
1 month into shooting, and the crew trade an Eastern European winter for the Caribbean sunshine as the unit moves to the Bahamas.
Well, of course it was a whole change of pace because we were in the Caribbean. I mean, there's half the crew up to their waist in water, filming off a beautiful beach in the Bahamas. I mean, it sounds awful, doesn't it? Yes, I tried on quite a few pairs of swimming trunks, yes. The Ursula Andress, yeah, that was me. What was I thinking? What were you thinking? It's only a tiny moment in the movie, I promise you. And hopefully not a tiny moment in the movie. I'll take that back.
The other thing is that we're supposed to be in Madagascar at the beginning of the movie, and of course this doubles for Madagascar.
Dan, you look a mess. Explain yourself, man.
No, it's just a tough night, that's all.
The first action sequence of the movie features French athlete Sébastien Foucan, who co-founded the sport of parkour, or free running.
People think it's jump. It's not about jump, it's about movement, combination. Some people think my discipline it's an extreme sport, but for me it's an art. I'm feeling more close to a dancer, more close to people do Tai Chi Chuan or yoga.
It's street art, I think, as well as a sport. It's an art form, and Sebastian's particularly good at it.
The chase climaxes in a fight between Daniel and Sebastian. It's been painstakingly rehearsed back in Prague, so all they need to do now is put it on film, 200 feet up.
That classic example is we rehearsed this fight on the ground, and you do that over and over again. You do the fight, that's great. And you do that, and we're really good at that. I like that bit. And then you get 200 feet up on a crane. And there's no time to have a fear of heights. You've got to get up there and do it. I mean, and it was borderline fun and fear. I'm not going to rush up there again in the near future. You've got two lonely figures running across a crane and jumping from one crane to the other crane. There's no way to fake it. They do it. They actually do it.
As usual, Bond was never far from the headlights, and the tabloids were not going to give the new boy an easy ride. Understandably, the new 007 was not going to meet with everybody's approval. There's a lot of fans to please, and Daniel was prepared for some negative reaction. But it can still take you by surprise.
It did shake me, but it didn't, it really was, oh, there we go, that's what we've been waiting for, and now it's happened, so let's move on. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. It'll come from, I was wearing the wrong coloured laces probably. I don't know.
The point is, Barbara and Michael have seen it all before. We've seen it, in just about every Bond course. They all pass judgment.
When Sean Connery was hired, everyone said, oh, disaster, because it wasn't David Niven.
If you're asking me whether it spurred me on a bit, yes, it did spur me on, and I did think, okay, well, let's make it. It was going to be good before, now it's really going to be good.
With their holiday in the Bahamas behind them, the unit now knuckle down to a grueling 3-month shooting schedule back in Prague. The special effects team are among the many departments who push themselves to the limit.
Is that still technically a special effect, Chris?
Oh, that's the most spectacular effects in the film, that one.
James Bond has stumbled upon a network for moving money around to terrorists. It turns out that it's a network run by a man called Chiffre.
I managed to foil one of his terrorist plots, and therefore he's got quite a deficit in his funds, so he needs to raise some money very quickly. So he sets up this high-stakes poker game.
And you must be Mr. Bliss's replacement. Welcome, Mr. Beach. Or is that Bond? I'm a little confused.
Well, we wouldn't want that, would we?
We're shooting now the card games, and I have to say it's a proverbial nightmare, that. It's because it's poker, and there are 10 people around a table, and they've all got hands, and they're all playing cards, and it's very difficult.
When you film one person, you've got to film the other person. It's got to look like they're both looking at each other. And invariably, at some point, somebody will look at each other, and it won't look like they're looking at each other. Now, add to that the fact is they've got cards in front of them and a pile of chips, which every time you cut to them on a continuity level has to be accurate.
I'm all in.
It keeps being exciting for some reason. I mean, especially the hand where I win a lot.
Cool. Even though we knew that it wasn't our money and we know that it's, we're filming a card game, when you're pushing sort of 50 million into the middle of the table, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that we knew that, that he was going to lose or I was going to lose. There was always a nice frisson about it.
Every time he hands me those cards and I see his 2 jacks, I still go, yes. It's just ridiculous. And I can see on Daniel's face when he loses. He doesn't like it.
We hired 9 people to play against Bond, so we've had to educate all the actors so they look like they are poker pros.
Frankly, it feels very natural. It feels very natural and very easy. It doesn't feel like it's forced. And, it's owed to, the amount of rehearsal that we put in, around the poker table, away from set, on set.
A lot of cast members who shall remain anonymous have been doing an awful lot of extracurricular rehearsal, so I hear.
In between takes, and we're playing for our week's wages.
We're basically at the casinos every night now.
We've been playing poker a lot over years, and then suddenly to be able to use that.
Oh, it's always fun to play poker. I enjoyed having, especially the writers, they're easy marks. Make a lot of money from them.
Michael is a very keen card player, so he organised a few games, which were good fun.
He cleaned me out twice, so I haven't invited him back. But in order to make the sequence exciting, we need to have events taking place to create the dramatic atmosphere.
I think the fights should make you wince a bit. It was painful, and it should look painful. It was really painful.
Action! As the production marched on, it became clear to the crew at least that Daniel Craig was the right choice. What the rest of the world thinks is now out of his hands.
I think we've made a remarkable movie. What people don't think of it, that's in the lap of the gods. It just depends if we get it right. I'm not lying when I say to you the only way to do that is to forget it's a Bond movie, is to get on and making the best movie you can. And all the Bond sort of sorts itself out.
The world has changed a lot. It's a more serious world, and we expect our heroes to, I think, fight the battles with better judgment and more responsibility and with less frivolity.
From tiny decisions in costume to whether we blow 14 tankers up or not, they all have to be thought through, and all have to be thought through with exactly the same energy. Because a lot of people are going to be watching, and a lot of people have very high expectations.